Good morning, everyone. I'm so excited to have you here today. We're here for Thoughtful Thursdays. I don't know what you're thinking about this Thursday morning, but I hope it's thoughtful. And we've got a wonderful guest here, Dee Hock, and she's going to tell us all kinds of wonderful things. And she has a free gift for us. But before that, I'm Carol Henderson. I have Life by Design, and I help people to spiral up with their life and help it to be better every day, every single day, to get better and better. And I've got my wonderful co-host here, Miss Barbara Ellison.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the show. Yeah, I'm Barbara Ellison, founder of Wellness Playroom for the best version of you. And, the Thoughtful Thursday, we love this show because it's all about what we are doing to make an impact in the world. And, there are so many people out there that are, they're not living their best life. And we're on a mission to make happiness the norm and just to help people to live better and to live happier. And to let them know that they do have a choice to do that, because so many people do, well, that's just the way it is. Well, yes, but no, it's not just the way it is. We can all choose. So we just give you some choices. So Dee, I'm so excited to see you here. Because what lights your fire? Yep. I love that. And I think your bottom one says we're better together.
Yep, we're better together.
Better together, because that's exactly what this is about. Is that we can all learn from each other, we can all support each other, we can all collaborate with each other. And you know what? You never know what someone else is going to say that will make all the difference. And sometimes it's just one or two words. And I remember one time a friend of Carol and I's, his name's Robert, and he said something about sending out messages. And I went, oh, and it was like and he saw it. He said, Barb, oh, that landed. I went, yeah, and that's what this show is about. So when something that we say or that our guests say that lands on you, let us know. Let us know. Put it in the chat, because you never know what somebody says. Like, you could have heard something for many, many years, and then all of a sudden it makes sense. So Dee, welcome to the show. Can't wait to hear what we chat about.
Hey,
how are you doing today?
Thanks, Barbara and Carol, for having me. I'm really pumped to be here. Yeah, and it's exciting. I love the work that you guys do.
Thank you. Thank you. It's fun. It's more of an avocation as opposed to a job.
Right. They always say, when you love what you do, you never work a day in your life.
So I think that's true, but it's not true, because I certainly feel like I work harder today than I've ever worked in my life, but I'm in the position where I know, like, the stress is different, right?
Yes.
Like when I was working before, this career, I was going to work every day and it was very, very draining. Right. But now I work when I feel most productive, and I work a lot, but I'm so not stressed out about it.
But we work because we want to work.
Yeah.
Right. And we enjoy it. Like with me, all of a sudden, it's like, this is fun. Yeah. It's not like it's a chore.
Well, I was reading something the other day that children do not differentiate between play and learning. And that's how we are when we do what we want to do, or what lights our fire, as a job. Right. And so, and if you think about it, children, they learn so much from 0 to 6. I think it goes down after them because they're sitting in a classroom. But 0 to 6, think what a child learns. Half of what they're going to know their entire life happens in the first 3 years.
Right. And their coping mechanisms. They also learn during that time frame how to show up in the world. Because you figure our families are our first communities, right? The first communities that we belong to are our families. So we learn how to be a part of that community. And then that's why when we leave that community and we go out into the world and we create new communities, we still bring those belief
Yeah.
systems with us
Well, and it's
to
like
those
with your
new situations.
situation, you were raised in a family that valued hard work,
Yeah.
education, you know, that you do what you need to do.
Right.
And even though for a time it put you in a box of doing something that didn't really light your fire, but that has poured over into this, that, you know, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, if you're going to have your own business, you're going to have some work ethic. You're going to
Oh,
have some drive.
Yes.
You're
Yeah.
not going to be able to be slothful,
Consistent.
lazy, and
Right.
sit on the sofa eating bonbons and watching soap operas all day.
No.
And so even though some of us worked hard in an area that did not quite fit,
Right.
it fit in the internal, it fit in the values and the
Right.
coping abilities.
Yeah. I think we were all like, well, for me, I was brought up to, you know, do a good job, do your best. And pay your bills first. Anything that's left over is gravy. Okay, fine. But sometimes there was no gravy, you know,
Right.
because everything went to
Right.
paying the bills.
Right.
But you know what? I think sometimes now I see such a difference in parenting style
Oh, yeah.
and
100%.
So let's
oh
eat
yeah,
gravy, let the bills go by the by.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's totally just a different world now than
It is.
yeah.
It's a very different world, and it's, you know, and it's supposed to be different though,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
we are sort of conditioned to say, oh, well, I do it this way because my mom did it, and her mom did
Yeah.
it, and her mom did it, and so on and so forth. Well, I mean, go back 100 years. I mean, I hope we're not still doing things the same way that we were doing 100 years ago.
Right.
Because people are different, you know, not only is the world different, but people are different. People, you know,
Technology.
technology, there's different jobs that didn't exist before. So
Mhm.
Well, I
Yeah.
love that saying about the newlyweds. Then they were going to have a special dinner, so she went to the store and bought a ham, and she proceeded to cut the end off the ham and then put it in the pan and cooked it. And her husband said, "Why did you do that?" And she said, "Well, I don't know. My mom did it."
Yeah.
And so he went to mom, who was still alive, and said, "Well, why do you do that?" She said, "I don't know. My mom did it." Well, grandma's still around. So he went to her and said, "Why is it that y'all cut you know, the end of the ham off
Yeah.
before you cook it?" And she said, "Well, honey, it's because I didn't have a big pan when we first got married, so I had to cut the ham. We got the
Well,
bone
it's-
off."
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
we
It's a good example.
lose that fact that,
Mm.
you know, that there, well, I'm going to give a story. We have a friend that we went to church with when we were younger. My husband has had a mustache except for a short 2-week period when he didn't, and I told him he had to grow it back. Okay. That was kind of a thing before we married. I said, "You can't cut your mustache off. I love it." So anyway, he got up and spoke in church. And this girl that has become a close friend over the years, we had babies together and stuff like that. And she said, "Mother, he spoke in church." And she said, "Well, yeah, he's a very godly man. He knows what he's saying." And she
Yeah.
said, "But Mom, he isn't even saved." And she goes, "What do you mean?" And she said, "He has a mustache." Well, this was an extremely conservative church where people have facial hair
Yeah.
in that era. And so she thought any man with a mustache was not saved.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, but that's a great example though. You know, and sometimes I think we need those extreme examples as well, just to show how outdated some thinking can be. I loved that you used ham as your thing, because I'm Italian, and you know, one thing that I will always say, so my mom still makes sauce the way that my grandmother made it, you know, takes all day, right?
Right.
I can make my sauce in the Instapot within like 10 minutes, right? And my mom, when
But
I
is
first,
it as good as your mom's?
I mean, I think it is, but I mean, it's probably not, right? It's probably not.
You need to do a
Like,
blind taste test with her.
no. Oh my gosh, she'll be mortified if she sees that I even said my sauce was close to hers. But no, it's just showing like that we as humans have to evolve with what's around us. And when we bring those old belief systems with us that don't necessarily serve us, like it's for me, taking 8 hours to make sauce is just, it's not feasible for me, and it's not feasible for
just
my
8 hours
lifestyle.
in the kitchen.
Yeah, like I don't want to be in the kitchen that long. Like I'm good just throwing everything in. I don't need the process, right? Just throw everything in the Instapot, hit the button, boom, done. My husband, on the other hand, he's the opposite. He likes the process of cooking. But it just shows that, you're not going to do things the way your parents did it, and you're not going to do the ways that they did it.
Mhm.
Find your own way, find your way that's unique to you, and then pass that down to your children, and then encourage them to do the same. Find, here's how I do it. Find a unique way for you to do it.
Teach them, but then allow them to make their own recipe.
Right.
And I think that is such a key to one of the issues. Like several friends of mine that, why do you do what you do? Well, because it's a family business and we're expected to do it. Are they happy? No. That's some of my clients that it was like, yeah. So how did you get involved in this? Well, it's because this is the family that I was expected. It was expected.
Yeah, it was expected.
So, I mean, we've given some funny examples like cutting a ham and, making sauce, and those things are all, but they're great examples.
Yeah.
The thing is, though, is so often some of those same come into our own, how we live our lives.
Yeah.
And then that is a totally different story.
Yes.
Because I think we've talked about it before, is that for so many years, I felt like I was living my life through somebody else's rules.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
And that's hard. That's hard.
But that's what we all do. We all live our lives by someone else's rules, because that's what we do when we're children. We're not when we're children, my kids don't live by their own rules. They try to, but they live by the rules that my husband and I have provided in our house. And I'm they're not going to keep that forever. I hope they don't. I hope they create their own rules. But it just shows that again, that mindset, and that's that hard. You had mentioned hardworking, Carol. When you grow up with such a work ethic the way that I do, you don't have a choice, because it's expected. You're going to have that. You're going to work just as hard as your parents did, and just as hard. But working hard looks different today than it did back then.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And the other thing we have to watch out for, and this may be more with my generation, but I saw women who grew up and married into, say, abusive situations.
Yeah.
Because that's what they knew, and that was their comfort level. And I deal with it a lot, because that's some of the people Keith and I've ministered to over the years, as people out of hard situations. And it's their comfort zone. And sometimes we will take a comfort zone that is less safe for us and for our children.
Oh yeah. Because
it's comfortable. It's not that it's not that it's right. Or even on a mild thing, leave it to Beaver. She was expected to have that house clean. She cleaned in high heels and pearls and a dress. Who would vacuum in high heels and pearls and a dress in our lifetime?
Not me. Not this girl.
You're lucky to have flip-flops and a t-shirt. Yeah.
I probably won't even have shoes on.
Exactly.
Yeah. Just certain things, like when I think of my grandmother, after my grandmother passed away, and we were going through having to dispose of her house, and it was like we came across things and we were like, I wonder what she used this for.
Yeah.
Of course, No clue. Because my grandmother, she was born in 1887, a very different. And I mean, it was hysterical. We would sit there and we would go like, I wonder what she used this for. No
Yeah.
clue.
Right.
No clue.
I
So
love
just, and but I can look back now and just even 5 years ago, gee, why did I think that way?
yeah,
Because it was expected of me.
it was
I'm a
expected.
different person now than I
Yeah.
was 5 years ago
Oh,
or
yeah.
10
Right.
years
You
ago.
definitely are.
Well, you also have to keep in mind too that you become who you need to be
Yes,
within a given situation to
right,
survive the situation.
right.
And that's a lot like when we're talking about like emotionally abusive, not even like I guess emotionally abusive relationships all the way around, whether it be a work relationship, whether it be, a personal relationship, you become used to it because you don't know how to stop it, and then you change. The
Yeah,
inside of you changes, your soul changes because of this situation and because of what you have to be endured with every day.
Well, and it
So
doesn't
you're
always
going to
have to
become
be,
hardened.
it doesn't have to be abusive. There are people I know today that, husbands go to work, wives stay home and raise the kids. And
Mhm.
that's what's expected. Now, he doesn't expect to come home. Now, if there's a diaper that needs changing, he'll do it. But he doesn't expect to come home to everything that maybe a husband where both of them worked.
Right.
Because I mean, there is an ebb and flow,
I agree.
and it's like if he likes to cook, then
Mhm.
maybe she does the dishes,
Yeah.
or vice versa. It's a give and take, and what we might see as abusive might be not abusive and comfortable for them. A wife
Right.
who does all the
Exactly.
work and takes care of the kids, and the husband that comes in with a great paycheck or a so-so
yeah,
paycheck. But anyway, in that it's all in what the person is comfortable with too.
right.
Yeah.
Well, and there's
And
a payoff in that
right,
too, right? Like her payoff, she's comfortable in that situation because her payoff is I do the household stuff, I take care of the kids, and then I also am able to go and buy and purchase things that I want to do as
Yes.
well
right,
because I have this flow of income. And if that works for their relationship, that's perfect because some
right,
relationships work like that because
right,
we're all different. We all have different needs.
Yes.
I know for myself, like I myself, when I was in a period when I wasn't, really making money because I was just started off, my husband was fine with it. He's like, yeah, we'll be fine. It's coming. And it was my internal dialogue where I was so used to always having money and money wasn't coming in where I was like, oh, I'm a failure. Never minding everything
right.
else, just saying I'm a failure. I have, I'm not creating money. I'm working really hard, but there's no money coming in.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah,
it's
you
just,
know
it
what's
depends on the situation. It depends on the people.
Right.
I think a
Like
lot
I
of
knew,
our attitude. A
right,
lot is our attitude and how we take it. When Keith broke his back, he
Mhm.
obviously couldn't work.
Right.
It was quite some time before he got on disability, and he did that. I think he was 39 when he went on no, 49. He broke his back at 39. They said he'd never work again, and at
Mhm.
49 he went on full disability because he could
Yeah.
no longer keep up. He owned the business, so he had crews, and he could no
Yeah.
longer keep up with that. And so, we had a whole flip flop in our lives,
Yeah.
of who had the final say in things. And so even during that time when he was majorly ill and on heavy drugs, prescription drugs
Right.
because of the bad back,
Yeah.
uh, it you know even then the final say, if it was some big question, I take it and we discuss it. But up until then, it was pretty much I made the decisions. And one of our
Right.
kids even said something to one of his friends. He says, "Yeah, what you see, you think that my mom runs the show, but I've got to tell you, my dad has final say, and that is the way we did it. But that's
Mhm.
what
Yeah.
worked for us.
That's what worked. Yeah.
right. And yet I knew a couple that they were on the brink of divorce. So they finally, I mean, absolutely on the brink of the divorce.
Yeah.
And so then they went to therapy. And it turned out that she hated staying at home and he hated going to work.
And they didn't talk to one another about it.
And they weren't communicating
Mhm.
that she was just feeling so just not fulfilled. I mean, she said, there's got to be more, the age-old question, there's got to be more to life than this. And he was saying exactly the same thing. Well, finally, the counselor, I think, just kind of went, it was like he gave them, the counselor gave them permission. Why don't you just switch roles? And they did. And they're still married.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
happier.
And happier for it.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the biggest things now. People are getting much more aware of what they are responsible for sharing what makes them happy.
Yeah.
What makes them fulfilled.
The breakdown of communication.
It's to communicate.
Or in a work situation or in a, whatever. Yeah.
Comes under what you have on your screen. What lights your fire?
Yeah.
But you have to tell somebody.
You have to tell somebody.
Tell the people that are close to you.
Yes. And you also have to think about psychological safety though.
Yeah.
Because sometimes in work, sometimes in home, there's nobody to tell, right? Because sometimes maybe they're not listening. Maybe they are hearing you, but not hearing you, if you know what I mean. Or maybe they just don't care. Whatever the circumstances are, not everyone has someone to turn to and be like, hey, I want to fix. And that's why a lot of times we feel stuck in our lives. Even if we do have someone to talk to, sometimes we don't even know how to talk to them. So that's why what lights your fire? Well, you have to get to know yourself first. Right. You have to get to know yourself first, and you have to find your voice, and you have to feel comfortable with owning your truth, which is very difficult, very, very difficult to do that. It's possible, but you have to get out of your own way and allow yourself, it's that self permission. Give yourself permission to live your life. Give yourself permission to find what lights your fire. Give yourself permission to help each other, and it's on the side, and be better together. What side is, there it is. I'm like trying to point to my better together, but be better together, and that's just my 2 cents though.
But I think that's what is so important, is so many people, they're just living their life. It's like they're on autopilot. Until something happens. And then all of a sudden, let's say in my case, my husband passed away. My husband died. I was like lost.
Right.
Now what? But at that moment also, I had 2 choices. I was either going to wallow in being a widow and just poor, pitiful me. And I did that for a little while. Yes, absolutely. We all have to do that.
Absolutely.
That's part of the process.
Part of the grieving process.
Part of the grieving process. But then it was like, okay, Barbara, I cannot go on like this for another minute.
Yeah.
But what am I going to do? And I had no idea. And that's when it was like,
pretty well.
I need help. And I found, and it was just, it was actually God's timing to me. This thing came across and it was like, oh, have you ever tried this? And I went, well, that's totally out of my wheelhouse. I've never tried marketing online. So let's do it. And that started the whole journey.
Well, a lot of it is honestly putting yourself in an uncomfortable situation. So, try, and that's why I try to say, try everything.
Try everything.
That way, but try everything.
Yeah.
And it's okay. It's okay if you, because you might have been told your whole life that you're not supposed to like something, and you believe
that was part of me.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, wait a minute, now maybe I will like it. Let me try it. And then you try it and it's like, oh, wow, this feels really good. The best advice that I can give anybody is to become uncomfortable and to really take inventory of how you are physically, mentally, and emotionally when you're doing it. Because if it makes you feel good inside, and maybe even something that maybe you've never felt before, that's something that you need to take note to, and that's something that you need to listen to.
Yeah.
Especially if it's good. If it's
Yes,
bad, don't do it again.
exactly. And and the thing is, I think so many people, they think, oh, I could never come and do a podcast.
That's not true.
Okay, but you know what? And people say, tell me all the time, Barb, how do you do all your podcasts? I said, well, because it's fun.
Yeah.
Oh no, I could never do that. I said, but let me tell you, I started out doing 10-second videos on Instagram to get comfortable doing 10s, and then I graduated to 30 seconds, and then I graduated to a little bit less than a minute because that's all Instagram did, and then I went to 5-minute Facebook lives, and then I went to, and now I have podcasts.
You have lots of podcasts too.
Well, I have several podcasts.
Just adding more.
What? And it just,
and then you're adding some more.
And I'm adding more because I love doing this. This lights my fire. They're talking about lights your fire. This lights my fire. Being able to share with people what's working, and giving them possibilities.
Yeah. Giving them hope.
And giving them hope.
I think that's one thing that's really missing in our lives right now, especially after things change in the whole, politics worldwide. It's not just the US, not just Canada. It's worldwide. Things are changing and it's getting out there. Yeah.
Getting scary.
Yeah. Well, the world in general is scary because it's unpredictable. That's why I think it's scary. And that's coming just from my sense of wanting to have that predictability, because unpredictability is scary, right? And that's why life is scary. And there's no one tells you how to be human. Nobody tells you, there's no guide, to become human, just like there's no guide to be a parent. You just make it up as you go along, and just, it's kind of like throwing spaghetti at the wall, see what sticks. If something sticks, roll with it. If it doesn't, then keep throwing it until it sticks again.
Yeah. Oh, I know. It's just amazing. Just the difference. And try on different things. I think that's one of the biggest things. Yeah. I have always been willing to try. Well, and if it works, great. Yeah. If it doesn't, oh well, on to the next thing.
Well, and being open to that that's going to drive creativity. That's going to drive innovation. That's going to, drive your happiness. And it also, you're tapping into a different part of your brain. You're tapping into the sage part of your brain, where all of, that's where empathy lives, right? That's where empathy lives, creativity, innovation, all of these things that, we all know that we should do, that just society makes it difficult for us to do.
Right. And that's like one of the things that I always I love going back to Thomas Edison, when somebody was saying, when people would say to him, oh, well, you've tried 1,000 things, and you failed at all of them. He said, I didn't fail at any of them. I just found 1,000 ways that it didn't work.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
And that's true.
That small shift.
Yes.
And when you look at it that way, you're willing to move on, because in school we're taught no, and we're taught don't ever do anything wrong because that's failure. But in real life, that isn't true.
Like, I love, Carol put up a meme one day about a child taking their first steps. When a child falls down 5 million times in their first, however many they're learning to walk, do they all of a sudden say, oh, I'm never going to walk, and have to be carried around for the rest of their life? No, you just keep trying.
Exactly.
Well, and that's honestly because, in my opinion, so we'll just say that my opinion is that the reason why they can do that is because they're not polluted yet. right?
Right.
Like
No.
when you're first learning to walk, like there's not much that a baby from like 0 to, we'll say 2, you know, is really like, there's not a lot of drama, right? Like they
Drama's a
eat,
wet
they
dot.
poop. Yeah, they eat, they poop, they sleep.
Yeah.
You know, that's essentially about it. So they don't have anybody telling them, you know, oh, stop, don't do it that way. It's just like, oh, look at the baby's trying to walk. And, you know, and it's fine. But as we become adults, right? It's, oh my gosh, you fall down. Ha ha ha. Or, oh, you should never do that again. So
Yeah,
it's
I
really
never
the
fell
environment
down.
as well.
I stood up and walked my first time.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's how people act toward
Right.
kids. Yeah.
Well, I fall a lot, and
Yeah.
and
I
it's
still
okay.
fall.
I still fall.
I
Yeah.
still fall.
And I'll
You
I'll
know?
probably continue to fall until the day I die, and it's okay.
Hopefully.
Because what that
Yeah.
means is that I'm alive.
Yes, and
Right.
you're still trying. That's the thing.
And still trying.
If you're not failing, quote unquote, at something, you're not trying very hard.
Right.
You're staying in your comfort zone. So
Yeah.
this has been great, Dee. I just want to say, how do people get a hold of you?
Yep. So people can contact me on LinkedIn and Alignable and Facebook by just searching Dee Hock. So it's DeeHoch, Dee Hock. And then I'm also on YouTube at Fire Within Coaching LLC. So I'm going to confuse you guys because I actually have 2 companies right now. So also you can go to ignitepurpose.co. And you'll find the Canada website for Ignite Purpose, and the USA, which I will be the managing director for, will be coming to the US next year.
Yay. Okay.
Yay.
Okay. And she has a free gift. So
I
if you
do.
tell her on any of those platforms that you met her on our platform, Carol and
Yep.
Barbara, Mavens of Motivation, she'll give you, is it a 10% discount? Is that what
I will give you the 10% discount off of any service that I have. I will give you 10% if you let me know that you heard me on the fabulous show with Carol and Barbara.
Thank you so much. So if you're watching us on Facebook, be sure to click like and share, because that's how we get other people to know about us and all the wonderful things that we have. And if you're on YouTube, number 1, subscribe and click the little bell so you know when something's coming up. And then also give us a thumbs up, because that lets the algorithms share us out better to other people, and share it with your friends. So please do those 2 things, those multiple things on each platform. And we thank you for joining us today. And it has been a blast. So
Thank you.
y'all have a wonderful
See you soon. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye-bye.